under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Mayor Pape,
Here. Thank you.
Councilmember Shavetta,
Here.
Councilmember Hands,
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Here.
Councilmember Leahy,
Here.
Councilmember Neal,
Here.
Councilmember Ryder,
Here.
Councilmember Silvers,
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, the next item up is public items. We have a sign-in sheet, and I don't have anybody that's currently signed up. Does not preclude anybody from coming forward at this time, but members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note, individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Does anyone out there wish to come forward to say anything not on the agenda? Okay. Well, I thought you were raising your hand, Director McDonald, but you were just scratching. So, okay, well, we will move on to the next item. Then the next item is the consent agenda. All items listed under the heading are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion, considering we only have one item. We'll just forego the rest of that. Does anybody have anything that they need to discuss about the one item we do have on the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion that we accept it. Ms. Hands.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve consent agenda item number 1.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay, Ms. Yodridge.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Shavetta,
Aye.
Councilmember Hands,
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy,
Aye.
Councilmember Neal,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder,
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the mayor's report, which appears to be empty, but I would like to at least acknowledge that we have a new business in our city, Slater Street Antiques, right down on Slater, where one of the other antique stores used to be located there. But President Hands and I were down there for the grand opening this, what was last week, I guess. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. It looked like a lot of stuff that was out of my house that I didn't know were antiques, but I guess I've had them long enough to be considered that. So, but if you get a chance, go down and visit those people. That's really nice. They came from Whittier, California, so it's nice to have Californians move into the Midwest. So I found out what a great city we were, I guess. That's all I have for that. Next item is moving into council items. And the first item up on council items is to consider approval of an ordinance adopting the 2022 Standard Traffic Ordinance, which looks like we have Chief McLaughlin that's here to address that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Every year, the League of Municipalities publishes a standard traffic ordinance and a Uniform Public Offense Code ordinance, or books. Basically, those contain all of our traffic ordinances and our misdemeanor charges. Cities adopt those every year when there are changes made. This year, 2022 books came out. There have been a couple changes in each. They have been relatively minor overall. I'm going to go over that. First one we're going to go over is the 2022 STO standard traffic offenses. They made some changes in definitions to all-terrain vehicles, electric assisted bicycles, electric assisted scooters, motor vehicles, motorized bicycles. These changes were minor. Doesn't really affect too much in our operations. They changed 10.1 funeral processions and parade. They just cleaned up some language, no real changes in the statutes. One of the big changes was Section 30, driving under the influence of intoxicating liquors and drugs. The state legislature went in and passed a bill that allowed prosecutors to go ahead and reduce or remove fines as part of the pleas, all but $250. They don't have to, but they're now given the ability to do that if they choose to do that. One of the other changes was they kind of cleaned up the language a little bit. It was prosecutors are having difficulties. If they had a case that they needed to dismiss because they didn't believe that the evidence rose to the level needed for a conviction, the language of the DUI law made it unclear whether or not they were allowed to do that. They just cleaned up that language to give them that if they believed they didn't have appropriate evidence, they could go ahead and dismiss, and they weren't in violation of the statute. Commercial driver's license, they just decided that there's no diversion agreements allowed on those. And electric assisted bicycle traffic laws application, they just basically said that electric assisted bicycles that can be operated on the streets are subjected to the same traffic laws as motorcycles and cars. That's pretty much the changes in the STO. Everything else has remained the same. And staff would recommend approval of the ordinance to adopt the STO, waive first reading.
Does anyone have any questions for Chief McLaughlin? Okay, I see no questions at this time.
Man, I
Looks like-
studied rigorously too to take the test.
Yeah, you've done an excellent job evidently. Okay, I would entertain a motion at this point. Okay, Ms. Hands.
So I would like to move that the council waive the customary first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2022 standard traffic ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Ms. Shadwick.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Well, moving on then, I would entertain another motion then, since we're waiving the first. Somebody else raising their hand. I keep calling on our council president, but, okay.
It's-
Ms. Hands, go ahead.
Okay. I move that the council approve an ordinance adopting the 2022 standard traffic ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I see a second? Mr. Neal, go ahead.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, well, moving on. I guess that passed. Would you like to bring us up to speed on the
UPOC.
UPOC?
Again, no major changes in the UPOC for this year. Legislators spent some time cleaning up some language. One of the biggest ones was the sexual battery statute. They basically had to add the fact that a recent Supreme Court case, Kansas Supreme Court case, said that a misdemeanor conviction of sexual battery in municipal court does apply to the Kansas Sexual Registry offenses, so they had to add that. Criminal deprivation of properties, when someone takes property with permission but doesn't return it, they just add definition of motor vehicle law, or the motor vehicle definition to that. The theft was amended to address theft of remote service units. I too questioned what a remote service unit was, so I had to look that one up. That's an ATM machine, basically, anything like that. They updated 6.18, which is motor vehicle dealers selling motor vehicles without a license. They just, again, had to update definitions. They removed section 7.5, distribution of unattributed applications for advanced voting ballots. That's due to the Vote of America versus Schwab ruling. They had to remove that. They cleaned up 7.14 electioneering. Basically, they did a better job of defining what is a county election office employee so that they would not be included in an electioneering statute. Cleaned up 7.15 intimidation of a witness. They just added definition of civil injury or loss to match the state law because it wasn't included last time. Section 10.30 covers operating an aircraft under the influence. If I have to enforce that, something bad's really happened, just telling you. So someone's landed a plane on I-35 and they're drunk, so. Section 11.18 gambling, they removed sports wagering from the definition of a bet due to recent Kansas legislature. And in past years, and again this year, we're going to remove out of the UPOC section 6.21, taking of wildlife, 6.22, criminal hunting, section 9.91, unlawful possession of marijuana, 9.92, possession of drug paraphernalia, 9.93, unlawful distribution of controlled substances, 9.94, unlawful possession of controlled substances, 9.95, unlawful possession of simulated controlled substances, 9.96, distribution of non-controlled substances, and section 10.5B, unlawful discharge of firearm. We are removing those from UPOC because we cover those in our city ordinances. We have made some subtle changes to those statutes, or some of them are no longer needed, like the hunting, because we have our own city ordinance on hunting. So we stripped those out of the UPOC since we have those already codified in our city ordinances. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Okay, Mr. Neal, go ahead.
I have a couple questions. These aren't, really too important. They're just more for information. But so the sexual battery, is that why would that be a municipal charge rather than something that would be handled at the county level?
It's a misdemeanor. So sexual battery is not rape or the thing that would become a felony. Sexual battery is the unlawful touching of another individual for sexual gratification. It's a misdemeanor, so the cities all have the ability to charge misdemeanors through municipal court. It also helps the district courts because they don't really prosecute a lot of misdemeanors because they're focused on prosecuting felonies, so it prevents court backup. So our municipal courts will handle those.
Okay, I just was curious about that. And then the second thing is all of the various drug deletions. Could you, what's the flavor, the differences between the Kansas League language and what we have in our ordinances? I mean, is there a theme to it that you could?
The basic theme is that what we did is we pulled in the descriptors of types of drugs and paraphernalia into our ordinance, whereas the UPOC, they didn't go through that. So ours is much more specific as opposed to what the UPOC is, so we charge out of that. Our prosecutors requested that because it makes it easier for them to charge in charging decisions, so that's why we do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions for Chief McLaughlin about the UPOC? Okay, I see no other hands being raised. I would entertain a motion for waiving. Oh, Ms. Yadrich, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mr. Mayor, I move the council waive the customary first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2022 Uniform Public Events Code.
Okay, we have a motion. I have a second. Ms. Hands.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, having waived the first reading, I would entertain a motion. Ms. Yadrich.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council approve an ordinance adopting the 2022 Uniform Public Events Code.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I see a second? Oh, Mr. Silvers.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are you addressing the next item?
I am.
Okay.
We got one more ordinance. This is to amend 68-48, Section F of the Merriam Code of Ordinances. In relation to the question that Councilman Neal asked, We have 6848 in our city codes of ordinances, which is a mirror of the DUI ordinance in the STO with one exception, that exception being the municipality, or the League of Municipalities does not include a section in there that allows municipalities to charge a third DUI offense through municipal court. There's some technical reasons beyond why they don't include that. But the bottom line is that our city has to adopt a separate ordinance in order for our prosecutors to charge a third DUI if they so desire through municipal court. That's why we have 68-48 for them to be able to do so. The amendment that we're making to this ordinance is just to incorporate the changes that were made in state law and to the STO that you just recently passed, the ability for the prosecutors to waive all but $250 of fines and to remove that ambiguity about whether or not a prosecutor can dismiss a DUI charge for lack of evidence without being a violation of the statute. Those two changes are going to be incorporated into 68-48 so that it mirrors what the state law is. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, does anyone have any, Mr. Neal, you have a question for the chief?
Yeah, I'm sorry to be so nerdy about this. I just want to understand a little bit. The third charge, what, the rest of the, I mean, the League of Municipalities has only allowing 2? Is that what you're saying? Or,
Well,
and why would that be? And what's the ramifications?
so a third DUI can technically be charged as a felony in the state
Right.
of Kansas. It also can be charged through municipal court as a misdemeanor. So what the state of Kansas is allowed to happen is that if a third DUI doesn't get charged through district court, it can be picked up by the municipality. I can tell you that from experience, I talked to our prosecutor, our third DUIs go out to Johnson County as a felony and they tend to stay there. However, we have this in here in case one gets kicked back for some reason and our prosecutor decides they want to charge it anyway instead of letting it get dismissed and whole. It just gives us the ability to do so. It's very rare that they don't get charged to Johnson County, but it's just hedging our bets a little bit.
Right, that, I kind of wanted to clarify that because, you know, I want to make sure that we charge appropriately.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks.
Does anyone have any other questions for chief? Okay, seeing no questions, I'd entertain a motion for waiving of the, okay, Ms. Yadrich.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council waive the customary first reading of ordinance to amend city code, section 6848.
Okay, and Ms. Hands, looks like,
Mr. Mayor, I second that.
okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, that being passed, I would entertain a motion. Ms. Hands.
I move that the council approve an ordinance amending section 6848 of the Merriam Code of Ordinances.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I see a second? Oh, Mr. Leahy.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Wow, man, we are flying. We could almost break a record here, but, I mean, we're almost, we're already too far. Okay, well, we got more to do anyway, okay.
27 minutes is the quickest I
Well, we're
remember.
still ahead of it so far. Looks like, moving on to staff items, we have an informational update on the CIP. Okay, Director McDonald.
7 minutes, right?
Go, Jim, go.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I have your August CIP update. I'm going to start with the West Frontage Road project. Miles Construction is currently working on the installation of the new storm drainage. There's been some utility relocations that have slowed us down a bit. We believe we've got those taken care of, so hopefully we'll see some more work processing along there. Work continues to the repairs underneath the bridge, along with the footings for the new pedestrian bridge that's going in on the north side. And the substantial completion date for this project is still November 18th, and we're on schedule. The 55th Street Improvement Project from Merriam Drive to West City Limits is currently out to bid. We have a bid opening tomorrow at 10 a.m. here at City Hall. Water One is currently relocating the fire hydrants throughout the project along 55th Street. We should have the remaining temporary construction easements by mid-August. Staff attended the appraiser's hearing on July 27th, which was held at the community center. We had 2 of the 7 property owners that were in attendance for that hearing. Construction work for this project will take place from mid-October with the completion date of May 31st, 2023. We've had to expand that out because it's during the winter project. The Mill and Overlay program, which was the streets of Hawker Drive, Farley Street from 55th Street to 57th Street, West 57th Street, and then Timber Ridge Villas. That project is substantially complete with the exception of sod, which is scheduled for September, which that's the beginning of our sod season. And then just the final update I have is the Merriam Drive street improvements from Johnson Drive to 55th Street. BHC is currently working on the design of that project, and we check in with them, and we're still a go to hopefully go out to bid late December, early January for that project. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Director McDonald? Mr. Neal?
This isn't really about any of these, but I was just curious. There's I guess Water One was in on tearing up Antioch, and I was curious if we know anything about that. There's a big plate there that's actually kind of not really down very far. I mean,
Yep,
it's
there was a
big bump.
I believe a week after the Shawnee Mission Parkway closure, there was another water main break right there by the bank. And so that's what, they did some work over the weekend to get that fixed, and they're scheduling to get that asphalted.
Okay. Do you know when that's going to be? Just curious because it's kind of a big,
Yeah, it's,
it's not a good,
they just
Late.
usually tell us within a week. So, I mean,
Okay.
hopefully a little bit sooner.
perfect.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
On 49th Street, I noticed that the utilities, one of the utility companies is replacing utility poles and trimming back trees. Can you confirm, is that cost 100% theirs?
Yes, that's all Evergy's. Yeah, the city's not responsible for any of that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? I see no additional questions. All right, doing good. Thank you, Director McDonald.
Thank you.
Okay, the only other thing we have is the Park and Rec Advisory Board minutes, which is the minutes, unless anybody has any questions for Director Slocum about the minutes. Guess not. Looks like you're off the hook. Okay. All right, any other staff items, Mr. Engel?
Just 2-1, I would ask that if you get the opportunity is to add on to the Mill and Overlay project. We did a trail expansion from Hawker over to the trail at the end of Hawker. It looks fantastic. There's split rail fence in there, extended the sidewalk. I went and took a look at that last week. It looks fantastic. If you haven't had an opportunity to go down there, it really enhances the trail, and I think ties that neighborhood directly to the trail as opposed to cutting through some of the woods.
I've already gotten a bunch of positive feedback from people I haven't heard from since like pre-pandemic
Yeah,
on it.
that's
So,
great. Yeah, it looks fantastic. Yeah, I haven't even had a chance to tell Jim. It looks really, really good. The other thing is just as a reminder, next Thursday there'll be the the Northeast Johnson County Chamber State of Shawnee Mission School District Luncheon. If you would like to attend that, please let me know. That will be the superintendent is the featured speaker, and we'll give an update on the school district. Currently attending will be Councilmember Yadrich and myself. That is all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, please reach out to Mr. Engel if you have that. I also know that I don't know when the early date is, but the Kansas League of Municipalities is going to be hosted in Overland Park
It
coming
is.
up, and so they would need to see you in reference to if they'd like to be at that. I
We
assume
want to
as
hit the
well.
early bird, yes, sir.
So always worth saving a buck, and the fact that it's at Overland Park is maybe a good reason for everybody to attend if you can. So reach out to Mr. Engel for that. Okay. If no other, anybody have any questions for Mr. Engel? Okay, I see no questions. It appears that we have an executive session.
We do 15 minutes.
Well, you just burned my, beating the record, but, well, I guess we will go with that. So we have a motion for that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move that the governing body recess into executive session for consultation with legal counsel for preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property as justified by KSA 754319 BC, B6, not BC. Present will be the governing body, city attorney, city administrator, and assistant city administrator. The meeting will reconvene in the council chambers at 7:50, allowing for travel time.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay. Motion and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, well, we will reconvene in reference to entertain a motion. Ms. Hans?
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Ms. Shadridge. Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.